Well, hello. I'm Matthew Crabb. I'm the CEO of QA Financial. And joining me in this interview is Luc Brandt, who's the CEO of Software Improvement Group. Um, I'm in London, Luc's in Amsterdam. Luc, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for sponsoring the QA Financial Digital Forum on June the 17th and 18th. We're really looking forward to it. We've got some great speakers, including you. And we're going to be previewing your presentation and finding out a little bit more about Software Improvement Group and your clients over the next 10, 15 minutes or so.
Yeah.
So let's start with a little background on Software Improvement Group, what it is you do to help clients benchmark software quality. And maybe you can give us one or two examples of the key risks that and weaknesses that you're working with some of those clients, particularly in the financial markets vertical. And that will be some great background for your presentation.
Yep, certainly. So let me try to explain a little bit about the background of SIG. Been around for 20 years or so. Well, actually, we celebrated our 20 years anniversary a month or so ago. And what we've always been doing is measuring software. We've always been looking into the code and trying to understand what's going on, looking into the quality there, building models around it, helping clients understand what their key software risks are. And you were asking about some leading examples, and they are quite diverse. They could be that people are spending too much on an application and feel, how can we reduce costs? It could be about, we want more out of this application, we want to build more features, but it's not going fast enough, which could be in the development processes, but also in the way it's been constructed. It could be that they want to move towards the cloud, but want to understand what the risks are, their current platform. It could be that they have 10 million lines of COBOL code system that they feel, well, they probably need to modernize that. But how to do this in a way that doesn't yield a lot of risk, certainly in the financial services area, where some of these applications are handling billions of dollars a day. It's quite risky to start touching those systems that have been built 20 odd years ago. And so you need to understand things at a deep code level to know what you're doing. And that's what SIG is all about, say, at a very high level.
Okay, thanks. So, but you in particular, you are helping firms benchmark their software quality against ISO standards.
Yes.
Because other companies use different methodologies. Can you tell us a little bit about your methodology?
Yes, I think the fact that we use ISO is important, but it's not the essence of our methodology. When you look at risk, and maybe relevant in this matter, I have a background in risk management where I helped companies doing risk management and automating that. So when you look at the risk methodologies like ISO 31000, they clearly say when you want to assess a risk, want to understand the risk, you first have to identify it, then you need to analyze it, and then you need to evaluate it. So it's three logical steps. You first need to know a risk, then you need to understand what's going on, and then you need to say, how relevant this is for me, what do I need to do? It's these three logical steps. And if you look into the vast majorities of tools out there, they focus on that first step, risk identification, and they do it in very fancy ways. There's all sorts of fancy techniques to find out whether it's a security vulnerability, whether it's a finding on performance, on reliability, or maintain, it doesn't matter. It's very much focused on finding the risk, so the risk identification. But then the analysis and evaluation phase is done mostly by people. So they might configure the tool, or they might be sitting looking at a long list of all sorts of findings and saying, what's relevant for me? And what we bring to the table with our models is that we make those findings comparable. So rather than looking at just literally thousands of findings and then having some individual look at it and being able to say, well, I think this is a good idea, we'll tell you, well, looking at the entire world, when you look at your system, these are the things you should be picking up. So the analysis of the model and therefore the evaluation is facilitated by making it much more comparable. So that's what we bring with our models to the table. And it's an essential step because, as I said, the risk identification is absolutely vital. But when you do not do the analysis in a way that's repeatable, that's explainable to other, say, fellow developers, maybe the CIO wants you to work more on speed, but you say, well, I have a technical debt in my system. How can you compare those things? Our models bring that to the table. So we make those comparable because of our benchmarks. And the fact that we use ISO for it is strong because that gives us repeatability, gives us a strong model. It's certified. It's not something that just we say, but we're certified by an independent entity saying that this methodology is very repeatable. And that's the important factor. You could do this with other methodologies as well. Some of them are less applicable to make them really certifiable, if that's a term. That's why we chose ISO. But say the repeatability of the model is more important, I would say, than the fact that that we chose ISO.
Well, that's really interesting because there are two trends that we see that I'd really like your comments on. First of all, the trend to increase regulatory scrutiny of software risk and app development at financial firms. In the context of what you've said about ISO standards and certification, I'd be interested to hear what you think about that and what you're seeing in terms of your clients' experience. And secondly, related, how are they benchmarking the ROI from their investment in this improvement? I mean, is it in terms of adherence to these standards? Can they do that? Or is it more about the volume and the speed, the number of defects, the improvement in those benchmarks?
Well, that's a lot of questions in one, but
yeah, sorry.
Not a problem. So first of all, what we see as a general trend is that current leadership is more familiar with technology. And there's still a lot of people out there that see software as something like a very fancy, complicated black box. As soon as you start talking about code, it's like, ooh, that's really difficult. And what we try to bring to the table that you can actually look into that code and have not just an opinion about it, but something that you can really talk about, that's indisputable, that you can talk about quality as not like, well, I feel it's okay-ish, but we can actually compare it. That's, again, that benchmark thing. And then to make the step towards your question about the ROI, how benchmarkable that is. Well, in fact, what we are seeing in our models is that we looked at the cost of changing code or having maintaining a particular part of code. When this is, so one of the models that we apply is when you have a 4-star rating. We use a 5-star rating system where 5 is the best. And the difference between a 2-star rated system and a 4-star rated system is more than a factor in 3 in development speed. And therefore maintainability and speed of change, which is one of the reasons why we always look at this aspect, even if we do a security analysis, because when you find a security flaw in a low maintainable system, it takes a lot of time to correct it, and therefore you stand, or the hackers stand a longer chance to take advantage of that. And that's what we see with our clients, that they take this financial aspect, because you can directly translate the star rating into a financial value, including how much time it would be to rebuild the system, how much time would it take to renovate it in certain parts, how much time would it take to maintain it. And that's something that, because it's a model that's behind it, not just somebody's opinion, you can really compare. And that makes something like, for instance, a technical debt discussion not a discussion that that lends itself for dispute. It's just indisputable. You could say you have that much technical debt, then leadership can say, well, this is what we tolerate, risk-based. And then you can say, okay, that means that in this case, I really need to start paying back on that technical debt. Otherwise, we're getting ourselves into trouble. So that's one of the key elements we try to do, is to take out the opinionated part of the discussion. We try to underpin it with real facts based on the code and the architecture that we measure. There was a bunch of answers to some of your questions. I don't know whether I answered them all, but
that's great. No, thank you. You did very well there, and we've covered a lot of ground. And of course, you're going to be going into these topics in a little more depth in your presentation at the QA Digital QA Financial Digital Forum. And indeed, there'll also be a virtual booth for Software Improvement Group at the event. We're using a platform that enables our sponsors to organize one-to-one meetings with delegates, and you'll be able to offer them technical presentations on a one-to-one basis and talk more about what you do. And if anybody watching this is interested in registering for the event, it's free to attend for financial firms. You can do that on this website via the link to our events page at www.qafinancial.com. So Luc, thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing you at the QA Financial Digital Forum.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Thank you.